All right, so our next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to review factoring a little bit. So on the first example, we're going to start off by factoring by greatest common factor. So your factors are, for example, if we have the number 8, your factors are going to be 1 and 8 because 1 times 8 gives you 8, and then 2 times 4 gives you 8 as well. So these are your factors, okay? When we're looking for a greatest common factor, you're going to have two different numbers. So for example, 8 and 4, okay? And so 4 is the same thing as 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So those are the factors of 4. So when you're looking for the greatest common factor, you're looking for the biggest number that they have in common. So the biggest number that they have in common would be the 4. Okay, so we're going to follow that same thing. So here we look for the greatest common factor between x squared and the 5x. Okay, so x squared is the same thing as x times x plus 5x. And when we're looking for the greatest common factor, we're seeing, well, which one do they both have in common? The greatest number of x's that we can take out would be 1. Okay, because this one only has 1 and this one has 1. They have 1 x in common. So that's our greatest common factor. So we take that x out and then we write whatever's left over. So I am left with this x here. I'm left with the plus sign. And then I'm left with the 5. And that's it. So that's how you factor by the greatest common factor. Okay, so looking at the next one, we have 5m to the third power plus 45. So this time they don't have any variables in common. They don't have any m's in common. But if we look at the numbers in the front, we have 5 and 45. So we look for the greatest common factor. Okay, in this case, the greatest common factor would be 5. So we take out the 5. And then we write whatever is left over. Okay, so this is m to the third power. That m to the third power is left over, plus. And then since 45 is the same thing as 5 times 9, okay, well, we took out this 5. So what we're left over with is 9, because 5 times 9 gives us 45. Okay, and that would be our answer. Okay, moving on to the next one. Here we have 15y to the third power plus 20y to the fifth minus 10. Okay, so we can't take out any y's because this 10 does not have a y. Okay, so they don't have any y's in common. So then we're just going to look at the coefficients. So we have 15, we have 20, and we have negative 10. And so looking at the greatest common factor here is between the 15, we can take out, all of them can all be divided by 5. So that's what we're going to take out is a 5. Okay, then we write whatever's left over. Well, we know 5 times 3 gives us this 15. We didn't take out any y, so it's y to the third power. Plus, and then 5 times 4 would give us that 20. Okay, and then y to the fifth power minus, and then 5 times 2 gives you 10. And that's it. All right, looking at the next example. Here we have 10y squared plus 12y to the third power. So between 10 and 12, we find our greatest common factor. So between 10 and 12, they can both be divisible by 2. Okay, that would be our greatest common factor. Now this time, we do have y's. So we have y squared and y to the third power. So the most y's we can take out is y squared. Okay, and then we write whatever is left over. So 2 times 5 would give us that 10. I took out this y squared, so I don't have any y's left. Okay, then there's a plus sign in between. And then here for the 12, 2 times 6 gives you 12. And then here we have y to the third power, so 6y. And that's it. Let me fix this. Sorry. All right. The next one, we have negative 12t to the fifth power plus 6t. So looking first at the numbers, we have negative 12 and 6. Our greatest common factor would be 6 because we can take 12 and divide it by 6, and we can also take 6 and divide it by 6. Then we look at the variables next. So here we have t to the fifth power, and here we have t to the first power. So the most t's we can take out is just one of them, okay, because the last one only has one to give. So we write whatever's left over. So negative 6 times negative 2 gives us that negative 12. I took away one of these t's, so I'm left with t to the fourth power plus, and then 6, we took out the 6. So we know 6 times 1 gives you 6. And then we took out this t as well. So that's it. And that's what we're left over. That would be our answer. All right, the next one. So here we have 16, 16, and 32. So we look for the greatest common factor between all of the numbers. So looking at the coefficient, all of them can be divisible by 16.
Good morning. This is the announcement for the mandatory lockdown, lockout, safety presentation. This presentation was given in October. We do have some office staff, custodial staff, security that needs to attend the training. So if you can make your way to the comments, we will be 6 feet apart and just stand by a desk. This will be a 10-minute presentation and it is mandatory. So if you can please make your way to the comments now.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so then from here we have x to the 6th power, and then we have x squared and x to the 3rd power. So we look, what's the most x's we can take out? Well, this one has 6, this one has 2, and this one has 3. So the most that we're going to be able to take out is 2. Okay, so x squared. Okay, we can't take out any more because this one doesn't have any more to give. And then we look at the y's next. So we have y to the 4th, and y squared. So the most y that we can take out is just 1. Okay, because this one just has 1 to give. And then we go ahead and write whatever is left over. Okay, so here we took out the 16 here, and 16 times 1 gives you 16. Then I took out 2 of these x's, and I had x to 6th power, so now I'm going to be left with x to the 4th. Then we took out this y, and that was the only y that we could have taken out, so we don't have any more y's left over. Plus. Okay, looking at the next one, we took out this 16, and 16 times 1 gives you 16. And then x squared, we took out the x squared, so we don't have any more x's left. And then this is y to the 4th power. We took out one of the y's, so then we're going to have y cubed. And so this one that's in the front, it becomes invisible. You don't need to have it there. Okay. Then moving to the last one, it's plus 32. Well, 16 times 2 gives you 32. That is x to the 3rd power, and we took out 2 of them, so we're left with an x. And then we have y squared. We factored out one of the y's, so we're only left over with the y here. And that's it. That would be your solution. All right, now we're going to factor by what we call factor by grouping. Okay, so this one has 4 terms. Okay, and if you notice, they don't all have an n in common. The last one doesn't have an n, so you can't factor out an n. And then here, you can't factor out a number either. So what we do here is we factor by grouping. So when we group the first 2 together, and then we group the last 2 together. Okay, and then we see what we have in common. So just looking at the first 2 between the n to the 3rd power and the n squared, we can take out at most 2n. So it'll be n squared. And then we write what's left over. So if I took out an n squared from here, I'm still left over with an n. And then if I took out this n squared, I'm left over with the plus 3. Okay, looking at the next one here, I can factor out between 4 and 12. I see what my greatest common factor is. So my greatest common factor would be 4. So plus 4. And it's a plus because of that plus there. Okay, if I factor out a 4 here, well, 4 times 1 gives me 4. And then I still have this n left over, plus, and then 4 times 3 would give me that 12. Okay, now we're almost done. Let me go ahead and erase that one, okay, because it becomes invisible. Okay, if you notice here that the n plus 3 comes out twice. We have n plus 3 here, n plus 3 here. So that's what we're going to factor out is n plus 3. And then we write what's left over. So we have this n squared here and a plus 4 here. We write it together in parentheses, n squared plus 4. Okay, and that's how you factor by grouping. Okay, so let's go ahead and try the next one. You do the same thing. It has 4 terms. There's no greatest common factor here. So we're going to check to see, do we have a greatest common factor when we group the first 2? So looking at the first 2, this has an x to the 3rd power. This has an x squared. So the most x's that we're going to be able to take out is an x squared. Okay, then we write whatever's left over. So we have 2x plus 5. Okay, and then from there we have the plus sign in between. And then between the 2x plus 5, there's nothing to factor out here. So it's just going to stay as 2x plus 5. And as as you can see, we have these two in common, 2x plus 5, 2x plus 5. So that's what we're going to factor out, 2x plus 5, and then we write whatever's left over. So we have this x squared in the front, x squared. We have this plus, and there's no number there like there was in the previous problem. The previous problem we had plus 4. Here there's not plus anything. Now remember, there's an invisible 1 up here in the front. Okay? So x squared plus 1. Okay, so just be careful with that because you do have to put the 1 in there. It can't just be x squared. And that's it. That would be our solution. All right, the next one we have 2y to the third power minus 4y squared plus 6 minus 3y. All right, so let's see. This isn't written in order, so I'm going to rewrite it real quick. We have 2y cubed minus 4y squared minus 3y plus 6. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and group them together. So I'm going to group the first two, and I'm going to group the last two. Okay, so if we look between the 2 and the 4, we can factor out a 2. Between the y cubed and the y squared, we can factor out a y squared. And we write whatever's left over. So 2 times 1 gives me 2. And then y times y squared would give me this y to the third power. Okay, minus 2 times 4 would give me, 2 times 2 would give me this negative 4. So I put minus 2. And I took out this y squared, so I don't have anything left there. Okay. Now this part is a little bit tricky because of the minus sign in the front. Okay. You do need to keep that in consideration. So between the 3 and the 6, my greatest common factor would be a 3. Okay, so we take out the 3, and then we write whatever is left over. So here, negative 3 times y would give me that negative 3y. Okay, but here, negative 3 times negative 2 is going to give me this positive 6. So you do have to be careful with that part. This minus is going to affect the sign right here. So it's not going to be plus. We do have to change it to a negative because negative 3 times negative 2 gives you this positive 6. Okay, now that we did that, we can go ahead and see that the y minus 2 appears twice. So we go ahead and factor it out. We write it y minus 2. And then we write whatever's left over. So we're left over with 2y squared minus 3. And we write that here. 2y squared minus 3. That's it. Okay, so then the last example that's like this, here we have 4m cubed minus 12m squared. We look for the greatest common factor. And so between the 4 and the 12, the negative 12, the greatest common factor would be a 4. Okay, they both can be divided by 4. Then we have m to the third power and m squared. The most m's that we can take out is 2, so m squared. And then we write whatever's left over. So 4 times 1 gives me 4. I took out 2 of these m's, so I'm left over with an m. Minus 4 times 3 gives me this 12. And then I took out that m squared, so that's it. Now remember, this 1 here becomes invisible, the 1 in front of the m. We can leave it like that, okay? When we group the last two together, we have the same situation where we're going to have to take the negative into consideration. So here we have 5 and 15. Your greatest common factor is going to be a 5, so we can take out a 5. And we are left over with an m. And then 5, to get 15, negative 5 times negative 3 would give us this positive 15. So just be careful with that. All right, so then looking here, we have m minus 3, m minus 3. That's what they have in common. So we're going to go ahead and take that up, m minus 3. And then we write whatever we have left over. So we have 4m squared minus 5. That's what I write here. 4m squared minus 5. And that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.